If you don't want your face on the screen, just go ahead and turn your cameras off. If you're fine with it, that's fine. Our goal is to actually record these and to put them up because we do think they're pretty we think they're interesting, and we hope that people also find them interesting and turn back to them time and time again to get this information. So you are here for NFTs in education. And so I'm just going to start by asking any of you, what do you know what, raise your hand or put in the chat, do you know what an NFT is? Or you think you do?
I know it stands for non-fungible token.
Awesome. That's ahead of the ball game for a lot of people. That was definitely ahead of my learning curve when I first started on this route of what is an NFT.
Mm.
So it does stand for that. And we're going to actually talk a little bit about it. So the first thing that we're going to do is talk about what the objectives are for this class. So really, you're going to walk out of here and you're going to have just kind of this conceptual understanding of NFTs. Maybe after you watch some of the videos that I provided for you, you'll be able to dive a lot deeper and maybe even create your own NFT. But in the next 35, 45 minutes, you'll have just like this basic understanding. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about how NFTs could impact education. In some ways, how they already are impacting education. Um, Either Pam or Sandra is going to go ahead and put the URL, the bit.ly, in the chat for you. And then you'll have this slide deck as we go. So before we start, how does everybody feel about the objectives? Good. Like, yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping to come here and learn. Great. Okay, so I'm going to start the class off kind of in the way that I learned what an NFT was. And it's kind of how I get a lot of my information. And oops, sorry. And it's through SNL. So I'm going to show you a video. So that, oops, sorry. In a kind of funny way, that went through what exactly an NFT is. And we're going to talk about it in a little more detail today. But what I would like to encourage you is I put a collection of explanations here for you to peruse in your own time. I will tell you the thing that got me really interested in this, and I thought, we need to do something here at the San Diego County Office of Ed and really explore this, was one day when I was listening to a podcast, and it's the Rainbow Chain podcast, and it's a reply all. And it really breaks it down in a way that made me understand and also made me think about how we would eventually see this in education. So I'm going to challenge you in your own time when you're free to take a look at some of these resources on what an NFT is and start to think for yourself on how will this impact education, or just maybe even your life. How will this impact in your lifetime? Before we move on, any questions out there, wonderings, or just statements that anybody would like to talk about? All right. And always leave questions in the chat. And again, I'm not a full expert on NFTs. I'm somebody who's been thinking about them a lot lately. Oh, I don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay. Okay, so basically what the that video, that SNL video, told us about is that what exactly is an NFT. And as Brent pointed out, it means non-fungible token. And what that means, it's unique. It's something that can not be changed into something else. So you can't go in and you can't alter it, you can't change it. And it can be anything digital. And people are getting really excited because they feel this is kind of the new art collection. So but we're doing it in a digital fashion. So they are really excited because it gives them something like these bragging rights. Like, I own this cyberpunk, or I own this ape yacht board ape yacht club. So it just gives them that bragging rights of owning the original. And a lot of those memes that came out many moons ago have now been turned into NFTs. So you know that one of that little boy, and he's holding his hand and it's like, I can do it. And it's changed so many times. That is now an NFT, and somebody owns that. And so it's becoming this world where people are owning these digital images and these digital gifts. And another thing, last week, Pam talked, or a couple weeks ago, Pam talked about the blockchain. And these NFTs are placed on the blockchain. And that is important to know. And that blockchain is very secure. And we're going to talk a little bit about why the blockchain is secure and why an NFT is placed on it. So before I move on, any questions, anything in the chat that I need to be aware of? Okay. All right, let me move on. Oops. Hold on a second. Okay, so I wanted to just kind of show you some of the most popular NFTs out there and their price tags. So this is CryptoPunk, number 5822, and this one sold for 23.7 million. Pretty crazy, right? And these are real prices. These are actually, this is real money that people are paying for these. So the Cyberpunk, and Cyberpunk is a series. So if you go online, you will see quite a few different Cyberpunks. They're all highly pixelated, and they all kind of, or the CryptoPunks, and they all kind of look like this. They change a little bit, right? This one, for about a year and a half, was the most expensive NFT ever sold, and it sold for 69.3 million. It's by a very popular artist, NFT artist named Beeple. And what Beeple did is he did an image every day for 5,000 days. And so this was, again, the most expensive one for about a year and a half. And it sold for this amount of money. Does that mean that it cannot be replicated? It can be replicated. I am 100% allowed to put this on my screen. I don't own the original, but I can look at it. It's kind of like the Mona Lisa. You can get copies of the Mona Lisa, but you're not going to own the Mona Lisa. Is everybody kind of following me on that?
You have two questions.
Yeah, of course. What are they?
Asking if an NFT could be something besides art.
Yes, and we'll talk a little bit about what that can be.
And then another person is asking how value is determined. Is everything at an auction?
It basically, value is determined by what somebody's willing to pay. So this may be worth 69.3 million today, but the price may drop. Somebody might be like, that is not worth it to me. And actually, if you listen to, let me go back, this podcast right here, the Rainbow Chain, this one is all about a person who, she is a huge Justin Bieber fan. And Justin Bieber did these NFTs that he released, and everybody was super excited about them. And there was, I think, about 300 that he released, and there were these cute little teddy bears. They kind of looked like, what were those called? The really popular little teddy bears.
Care Bears?
Well, not Care Bears. Everybody collected them for a while. Beanie Babies. It looked like a little Beanie Baby. Yeah. And out of those, there were a couple that had like a little rainbow scarf. And if you got that rainbow scarf, you were considered special. And the thought was that rainbow scarf one would go up in price. And so this person paid about $2,000 for this NFT with the Justin Bieber, and she was lucky she got the one with the rainbow scarf. Well, eventually that price fell. People weren't as excited about this particular NFT. So who determines the price? It's really the public and what they're willing to spend. Okay, so cyber, oops. So the Beeple was the most popular, but then we came up with this one, which is Pack the Merge. And this one sold for 91.8 million. This is all it is. And somebody bought it. And it was sold to it was exactly a year ago. Okay, now we get into these other types of NFTs. And these are ones that are really popular. And these are they're the Ape Yacht Club ones. And the reason why the Bored Ape Yacht Club are so popular, you'll see that this is the one that Eminem just bought for $462,000, is because it also allows, if you have one of these Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs, you're kind of buying into this club. And this club allows you to go to private chat rooms. It allows you to socialize with other people that you know have this type of money to spend on an NFT. So it kind of starts to allow you to go into these different elite locations. Some of them are on the web, but some of them people are actually meeting in person. For this one, there is a actual yacht club that people can go to if they are a true owner of this. And it can be checked on the blockchain. So you can really see, like somebody could say, oh, I'm a Bored Ape Club, Yacht Club member, but they could check the blockchain right there and say, oh no, you were a member last year, but you don't own it anymore, so you need to leave. Any questions about that? It's a different way of thinking, somewhat.
No questions in the chat.
I kind of have a question. So some of these collections, like the CryptoPunks or the Bored Ape Yacht Club, those ones, like, so like the one that's on the screen right now, like, did someone actually like create each one, or are the attributes assigned by some kind of like computer program to generate like really rare ones and really common ones? You know, like maybe only one has this hat, or like 15% have this hat. Like how are they actually generated? Because I know some of these collections are really big, like 10,000 different images, you know.
It really depends, because some people create them by hand. And NFT, anybody can create an NFT. Like your child could do an art project and then you could digitally animate it, and that could be an NFT. Some of these, I want to say that I think the CryptoPunks are probably just kind of replicated, and maybe they just change a color, something very simple. It really depends. But some artists really go out of their way and create unique art. And again, if you there's one back here, this video right here, I'm fascinated by, because this girl, she's 13 years old. She's always loved doing, she calls them long neck women, I think. And she's always been drawing them since she was a little girl. So I think her aunt told her, you should turn them into NFTs. She turned them into NFTs. At 13 years old, she is a multimillionaire. But all of hers are hand drawn and unique. And so, so much so that Time Magazine actually had asked her to do their Women of the Year and make them like that, make NFTs for them. So it really depends on the artist and what their thought is. Good question. Okay, there was another question.
I think that was me.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do, and just give me like, give me a thumb up. Let me know if you want to do this. I know it's afternoon and you're tired, and if you don't want to, we'll skip this activity and you could do it on your own. But open Google and do a search for popular NFTs. Do you want to do that right now, or you want to hold off and do it later? Because I'm okay either way. Here, why don't I just share my screen and I'll do a quick search for you.
And Alicia, someone's asking if there's a store, like a common store, a place where you can go buy NFTs.
Yes, we're going to actually go over all that. So if you go to popular, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
So if you just Google, you'll see that CryptoPunks, what I just showed you, are the most popular. Then you go to Bored Ape Yacht Club, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, which is a whole different one. So there's a lot of different ones, and you can go to the images and just see what they look like. They're nothing really special, but for some reason, they've just really taken off. These kitty ones have become huge recently. So again, it just makes you wonder, like, what is it? How did NFTs become so popular? And then what makes these collections so popular? So it's interesting to kind of dive down this rabbit hole, which I have done. And if you look, here's those Bored Ape Yacht Club. This one has leopard. This one is the one Eminem just bought, kind of looks like him. This one's the cowboy. So it just depends on, here's one smoking. They're all different. All right, so I'm going to encourage you to do that and see for yourself what's out there. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what's the difference between NFTs and Bitcoin, because a lot of times people get a little confused on those two. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about how they're the same. So a lot of reasons why people get them kind of confused is because they both gained a lot of recognition about 12 years ago. So in 2010, that is when you started hearing about Bitcoin and NFTs. Mainly like people who were really hip and cool, like not me. I didn't hear about them till about 3 years ago, but super hip and cool people started hearing about them in 2010. They started attracting the same type of people. So like the people that do a lot of like, hey, I'm a hustler, I can get this done, I can make a lot of money. People like that who were really kind of not afraid to take risks started getting involved in this digital asset world. And that's kind of what it is. It's this digital asset world. It's kind of the difference between, remember, like many of you may have had grandparents or great grandparents who are like, I keep all my money under the mattress because I lived through the Great Depression. And then people are like, that's crazy. I keep mine in a bank. So it's kind of like this new frontier where people are thinking about where they keep their money and how they store their money. And then another thing about both NFTs and Bitcoin is it uses the same type of programming and encoding. So again, for those reasons, that is why people tend to think of them as very similar. And they are in a lot of ways. But reasons how they're different. An NFT, it puts that stamp of ownership on the original work. So it allows somebody that ability to say, I own this. This is mine. And you can check this is mine. So nobody's going to be like just taking it off the wall and stealing it, because you can see people can steal it, which I'll talk a little bit about, but you can actually see who's stolen it. If somebody does, doesn't mean you could get it back, but you can see who's stolen it. Okay. It really also, another thing that people like about these NFTs is it gives a digital contract to how it can be used. So for instance, if you own the Disaster Girl meme, which is now an NFT, you can actually say it can only be used in this way now. And if somebody breaks that, you can go back to that digital contract, which is on the blockchain, and look. Does that make sense? And lastly, it cannot be broken up. So you can't buy just a portion of an NFT. Like you can break up $100 bill into smaller parts, but you can't break it up. So for instance, the Mona Lisa cannot be broken up into different parts for different people to own. It's an all or nothing thing. Same with the NFT. Okay, now a Bitcoin can be traded for another Bitcoin. But it's on this decentralized and encrypted system, and it doesn't belong. It's like a Bitcoin is like banking without banks. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It doesn't matter what banking system you are in. A Bitcoin knows no boundaries. It knows no borders. As long as you're operating with computers, it's completely decentralized. A lot of these people that are high risk takers, they like it because it's not tied to a bank, but it is a risk. We always hear, oh, cryptocurrency has crashed. Well, it crashes, it goes up. It crashes, it goes up. And the way it's verified is on that blockchain that Pam talked about a couple weeks ago. Is this a lot? This is a lot to get your head around. I totally get that. I've spent a lot of time like trying to figure this out. Any questions so far on it?
Yeah, you have one in the chat from Brent that says, I'm wondering how students can mint NFTs in school and if it costs money.
It does cost money, and that's where it gets, and I'll talk a little bit about what minting means. But minting actually means just making it real. So if you create a blockchain, you have to mint it. And I'll talk about the environmental impacts of minting in a moment. But yes, students can definitely mint NFT, and it is expensive. Any other questions? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you could use NFTs in education. And I talked a little bit about K-12 and then college. So one thing that really intrigues me about NFTs is that they can be used for to show competency. And so I think a lot about what happened with COVID. And in COVID, it became less about students are in fourth grade and then they're going to move to fifth grade, because our students were in and out of the classroom so much, or in and out of Zoom. We don't know what competencies they built or they achieved during that time. So what I like about NFTs is that, let's say you have a student and they're reading or they need to read at a certain level. Once they reach that competency, they get the NFT to show that they've reached that level. And so that will follow them forever. And then it would be replaced once they reach the next level, and then the next level. So it takes away kind of this whole thought of grading, and it goes more of this competency-based education. So a school system could then have those NFTs, and if a student meets those competencies and it shows in their blockchain, then they can move forward. I think about also in the CTE world. So in the CTE world, if you have a student and they are learning they're in auto shop. And in auto shop, they need to learn how to change the oil. They need to replace brake pads. They need to be able to reprogram the electrical of a e-car. So those are all competencies that they're going to learn. But if they just have their diploma and they're going for the job, all it's going to show on that transcript is they took auto shop. But if they're able to show that they have an NFT for each one of those that resides in the blockchain, they would be able to show that, and their competencies have been met. Is that kind of making sense on that aspect in education? Okay. Ask questions if you need to.
So I do have a question about that.
Yeah. course.
So would every one of those competencies or diplomas or whatever it is, would those all have to be minted? And would that be cost prohibitive? I mean, how would you navigate that?
They would have to be minted, and minting means making them kind of real and putting them on the blockchain. So it means taking, and I don't know, honestly, Brian, I'm not really sure. I don't know if as an educational, I mean, what I'm thinking about is a complete overhaul of like an educational system.
Sure.
But it's something like, would we do one like a blockchain for education? You know, is that a possibility nationally or globally? I think about like when baccalaureate education started and everybody recognized that. And then it kind of started taking off like in the 90s. Is this something similar? I, I don't know yet. So to be
Interesting.
honest with you, but it's an interesting, I see it as something really interesting to think about. And
Definitely.
what does our future hold for us with this technology? Um, Another aspect that I think about a lot of experiences. So, for instance, I know when my kids were in school, they would have like a multicultural fair, or they would have a jogathon, or they would have like hula baloo, like these experiences. I think you could do that with NFTs as well, and then it shows this common experience that a lot of people have done. And it doesn't limit you to sharing this experience just at your school. It allows you to show your blockchain, oh, I did hula baloo at my school, or I did the science mobile van at my school. And so it brings this larger sense of academic community together. So again, I like that. One of the most common ones that I've heard is just using it as diplomas. So when somebody reaches all of those experiences, it's there as a diploma. Textbooks are also using NFTs, which I'm not 100% bought into. And I'll tell you why, because I think it's more of a money-making scheme than anything. So what textbooks are beginning to do, Pearson, I read, is doing this, is that they're turning a book, they're putting an NFT associated with the book. And so when a student sells that book, or when a district sells the book, they're constantly tracking it. So they're getting, in some cases, pay if it's like a college student. If a student buys the book and then they sell it and that NFT is there, they get a portion of that payment when they sell it back to schools. So they're thinking about it in lots of different ways, how to use it. But I think as educators, we have to think about how to use it so everybody can afford it and it can be available. I found this graphic online, and it just talks about teachers, parents, and students and using it. One way that I never thought about is that parents could use, parents can use it like the NFT to fund different experiences for their students. They would be able to choose the NFT experience. They would, like, let's say you don't want your child to participate in the science fair because for whatever reason, but you want them to participate in the multicultural fair. That's kind of how I was reading that. I'm not sure if that I read that correctly. Again, I'm kind of also in my exploratory phase of this as well. Colleges are using it for credentialing, fundraising, events. One thing that I really liked, they're using it for research, so that they're turning like some of their Nobel Prize research into an NFT, and then they can distribute it out that way. It's always on that blockchain, so they can always show who created it and who did it. Oh, and that's what MIT is doing as well. And Duke University is exploring using NFTs for an MA program. So you kind of go on there and you pick and choose this experience, this experience, this experience, kind of like NFT cafeteria learning. You pick yours within that section, and then you end with maybe 40 NFTs, whatever they have decided. Any questions about that in the chat? Everybody good? How's everybody feeling about this? Is it kind of, you feel okay? You're like, this is way too confusing for me. And again, I urge you to listen to some of those podcasts or watch some of those videos, because I think those will help you. Those were kind of helped me a lot. Okay. It's funny because I have three 19-year-olds. And one of them, I was showing her this presentation. And the very first thing she said to me is, aren't they bad for the environment? And that was the first thing she said. And yes, in some ways they are. And so to generate NFTs, it has been said that it takes a month's worth of electricity to generate one NFT. And the reason is because what happens with an NFT, and we've talked a lot about minting. In order to mint, or in order to get an NFT onto the blockchain, there has to be so many different complex puzzles, algorithms that go into one NFT, that the amount of electricity and energy that's used is staggering. And that's what's happening. That's why NFTs are so secure, is because, and they're said that they can't hack, because they're on, if you own an NFT, it's on so many thousands and thousands of computers. And to mint an NFT, to go into one of these systems and mint the NFT, it's tapping into thousands and thousands of computers with these complex puzzles using algorithms to solve. And I'm not a computer science major. One of my kids is, but I'm not. But that to me is very confusing and staggering to even think about. But that is what's happening. Any questions about that? And I see there's some in the chat, but Pam, is there anything that I need to know about?
No, somebody said I enjoy exploring the potential, and then I put the presentation link for a few people came in a little bit later.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of potential there. Okay, so why do we want to think about NFTs? Well, one thing that I like a lot about NFTs. I haven't bought one yet. I'm kind of considering it, but I like because it gives a diverse representation. Anybody can hop online and do an NFT. It does get expensive to mint, not staggering expensive, and like it ranges in cost. We're not looking at hundreds, we're not looking at thousands, but if you have a lot, it could get expensive. But it does allow just the common person to get their art out there. And again, I go back to this young artist here. She would have never reached the level of popularity if she did not do this NFT. And I'll just show you. Yeah, it's 13-year-old girl becomes a multimillionaire in 1 year by selling her NFT art. And this is the girl. She's just a middle school student who chose to put her art online. She didn't know it was going to take off. She had no idea, but it did. And so those are the things that I really like about it. It allows the playing field in some ways to be level. There's also different marketplaces that are opening every day. And these different marketplaces are really geared towards diverse artists. They're geared towards women or people of color or neurodiversities, etc. So you can find your own kind of niche to fall into and present your art on. So it's not like you just, it's not like you aspire to get in the Louvre and your chances of getting in the Louvre are really, really small. There is a place for you on the web. You just have to find it. And with that, it allows people to have this sense of belonging. And I found my community. I'm going to post there. I maybe like to post about my speech impediment, and I'm going to post what that might be like. So I might go with neurodiversity people in that marketplace. It has some place for everybody. So that I do like that. And it does create more equitable access to wealth in some cases. And I'm not saying it's perfect. It is absolutely not perfect, but there are cases of people being able to present what they have and get a following. Any questions about this? So you had asked, there are marketplaces. And again, this is something to go ahead and do on your own. I know it's the afternoon and you're tired, but do a Google search and look for NFT marketplaces and go down that rabbit hole a little bit and see what you're finding. And it's really kind of fun to see this whole world that is out there that you never, ever expected. So that is the curious about NFT and NFT in education. Before I close up, any questions about it? Yeah, Pam.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've heard things like with the NFTs, there's a lot of speculation going on right now, which is making it kind of volatile. But where you might have Eminem buying the NFT all by himself, when Alicia said you can't break up the NFT, that's true, but people can buy into it.
Oh, yeah.
Separate owners. So it's not like I can own this small left-hand corner of the Mona Lisa, NFT, but that's kind of an interesting phenomenon that I'm seeing too, is there are investment companies who are known for investing in art, but now they're switching over to also have an NFT platform where they're that you can do some speculative things, and like that one, I think that had the one that is the highest priced NFT. If you look in the notes in the presentation, there's a little bit of a history from it. I just, we copied pasted what we put in from the internet, but it kind of gives you that background on what that is, who owns it. Is it multiple people? Is it one person? That's all kind of interesting to me. And then I was also going to say that, I lost what I was going to say. Sorry, just went in one brain cell and right out the other.
That's okay. Yeah, as Pam said, that multiple people can, but the nice thing is you see who it is. So you would see that it's an investment group or it's an individual. Oh, and people can steal NFTs.
Yeah.
And so again, with your, just like any other password, somebody can ask you for that password and take it, and then they can take your NFT. You can fall into these scams and you can see who it is, but there's no NFT, please. Like once it's gone and you've transferred that, it's gone. And that Reply All podcast is all about that. And so she was able to track. So what had happened was somebody stole her Justin Bieber NFT because she gave them her password. She was scammed. And then they immediately sold it to somebody else for like $2,000. So she contacted that person and said, hey, can I have the NFT back? And he's like, no. And she said, would you be willing to trade? And that kind of started this whole podcast on trading and NFT and kind of what the question we were asked earlier, what it's worth and who determines that worth. So it's a brave new world out there, but it's an interesting one. It's one that as educators, we need to really know about, because our students are learning about this through just being online and being young, and they're digital. And so it's something that we need to think about.
I was gonna say there's someone who has somebody wrote in the chat, if you want to read that real quick, but I was going to say too that it allows people, and you may have said this already, like if you imagine you're the kid in that business kid meme, the little kid who's got his fist raised. For the longest time that went out there, it went viral. It was a viral meme, and that person had no way of saying, that's me, I own that was me, you should be paying me some kind of a royalty fee or whatever. And you really can't do royalty fees with viral images, right? It's just, you'd be chasing ghosts everywhere. that a couple of these really famous memes that are out there, the people who owned the original photograph and can have that provenance to say, this is me and I own this. I'm now minting this as an NFT, and anybody else can mint it as an NFT, but mine's the only one that really matters because this was me and there's a story behind it. So those are the kinds of things that you might look for if you're interested in, kind of purchasing or group purchasing into an NFT or something, is really look at the provenance, look at who's behind it, what it means. Exactly similar to that in athletics. You can buy a football jersey, but it really matters if it's a famous football player and he wore it in whatever I'm Super Bowl, that they won, something like that. That makes that a much more valuable shirt than if it was something that he tossed to a fan during a practice or something like that. I had a question.
Yeah, Bob asked a question and he just said, when does it become too much? Honestly, I don't know. I never understand the super rich and what they choose to pay their money for. I would think, $1 million. I would think $2,000 to own something digital is enough. It's too much. But again, I don't like to pay for parking. So, who knows? It's where we all put our own values and what we consider valuable. And that's why I think maybe these newer generations that are coming up, they live in a digital world. And so they see value in things that somebody my age who was born in the 60s doesn't. And again, I think it's just a very interesting world that we're embarking on. And I don't know when it becomes too much. I think all of these are really good philosophical questions, and we should not all be thinking about them, but I think they are those things that make us go,
Yeah, and if you or I had the cost of a house to put in an NFT so we could go sit in a virtual back room with Eminem, then maybe we'd think it was cool. I don't know.
So we hope you like this series. We're going to continue it because we think that it's interesting and we're learning a lot. So some of the things that we have coming up are curious about AR, and all of these will have some sort of spin on education. So the next one will be curious about AR, VR. Then we'll do curious about wearable technology, and then curious about ed tech and VAPA.
Okay.
And that's what will be coming up as we move forward. Any questions before we go? And we're putting that link in the chat right now for you.
Yeah, and whenever I can use that bit.ly kind of back end thing, curious about whatever we had, we'll use that. I think the last one was curious about blockchain, but I can't remember if it was a capital B or not.
All right, well, thank you so much. And if you have any questions, just let us know. You can always reach out to us at the county office. We're excited to help you at any time.
Yeah, if you're curious about anything that we haven't mentioned, let us know.
Yeah, let us know if you're curious or what you're curious about, because I know that you are curious about some of these things that have to do with technology in this world. All right, thank you very much.
Right. Alicia, I'll see you tomorrow.